For 364 days, Buddy the golden retriever was a source of endless frustration for the Miller family. Every single morning, without fail, he would go to the same spot in the middle of the backyard, right next to the old oak tree, and he would dig. He dug with a frantic, obsessive energy that baffled and annoyed everyone. They had tried everything. They filled the hole with dirt, only for him to dig it out again the next day. They placed large rocks over the spot. He just dug around them. They tried commands, treats, and toys to distract him, but his focus was singular. The backyard, once a pristine patch of green, now had a permanent muddy crater that the Millers had begrudgingly nicknamed Buddy's Pit. "I don't get it, Mark," Susan Miller would say to her husband. "Is he smelling a mole? Is he just crazy? We have a perfectly good dog bed inside, but he spends half his day digging in the dirt." They'd had a vet check him over. Buddy was perfectly healthy. An animal behaviorist suggested it might be boredom or anxiety, but no amount of extra walks or attention could deter him from his daily ritual. The children, Lily and Tom, had even made a joke of it, placing a tiny construction sign next to the hole that read, "Buddy at work." It was a family quirk, an unsolvable and muddy mystery. Then came the 365th day. The Millers woke up to a strange silence. The usual sound of frantic scratching and dirt being thrown was absent. Susan looked out the kitchen window and her brow furrowed. Buddy wasn't digging. He was lying beside the hole, his head on his paws, looking exhausted but calm. He was simply watching the spot, as if his work was finally done. "Well, look at that," Mark said, coming up behind her. "The mad digger has finally retired. Maybe he found whatever treasure he was looking for." They laughed, relieved that the bizarre chapter was finally over. The day went on as normal. The kids went to school, Mark went to work, and Susan ran errands. The hole in the backyard was just a hole again, and Buddy slept soundly on the living room rug all day. That evening, as Mark was grilling burgers on the patio, he smelled it. A faint, strange, cloying scent. He sniffed the air. "Susan, do you smell that? Smells like rotten eggs." Susan came outside. The smell was stronger now. A sense of unease began to creep in. That was the smell of a gas leak. They frantically checked the stove, the water heater, the grill. Nothing. The smell was coming from outside, from the ground. It was strongest near the old oak tree, near Buddy's pit. A cold dread washed over Mark. He grabbed a flashlight and rushed to the hole. The smell was overwhelming there, seeping from the very earth Buddy had spent a year excavating. He called the gas company, his voice trembling with a dawning, horrifying realization. The emergency crew arrived within minutes, their detectors screaming the moment they stepped into the backyard. "You need to evacuate your house now," the foreman yelled. "The whole area is saturated. This isn't a small leak, this is a major pipeline rupture. It's been leaking slowly for a long time." As the crew worked under giant floodlights, digging deeper into Buddy's pit, the foreman explained the terrifying reality. The underground gas line, old and corroded, had developed a tiny microscopic fracture about a year ago. It was too small to be detected by their equipment during routine checks, and too deep for the smell to reach the surface. It had been leaking silently, steadily, building up a massive volatile pocket of natural gas right under their yard, under their home. "This ground is a time bomb," the foreman said, his face grim. "A single spark, a static shock, even the lawnmower starting. This whole house, maybe even the block would have gone up. I've never seen a build-up this bad go unnoticed." Susan looked at him, her hand over her mouth. "But how did we not?" Her voice trailed off as her eyes fell on Buddy, who was now sitting calmly on the patio, watching the men work. The foreman followed her gaze and a look of pure astonishment crossed his face. "The dog," he whispered. "Dogs can smell the ethyl mercaptan, the chemical they add to natural gas, at concentrations thousands of times lower than a human can. He wasn't digging for a bone. He was digging for the leak. He was trying to show you where the danger was." The Millers stood in stunned silence. For a year, they had scolded him, been annoyed by him, called him crazy. And for that entire year, their loyal, brilliant, misunderstood dog had been tirelessly working to save their lives. He had been digging to release the pressure, to expose the source of the poison that was silently surrounding his family. The day he stopped digging was the day the concentration of gas had finally become strong enough for human noses to detect. His job was done. He had brought the danger to their attention. Susan fell to her knees and hugged Buddy, burying her tear-streaked face in his fur. "You knew," she sobbed. "You knew all along and we didn't listen." Buddy just licked her tears, his tail giving a soft, gentle thump on the patio. He wasn't a mad digger. He was a guardian angel with muddy paws. Sometimes, the most persistent, annoying behaviors are not a cry for attention, but a desperate warning. And sometimes, the greatest love is shown through a tireless, thankless task that only makes sense when it's almost too late.